Hey folks, this is Rhykker. Last week I hosted a special stream in which a couple Diablo 3 developers came by for a chat about challenge rifts. We got some questions answered, we got some greater insight into the development of challenge rifts, and we spoke about possible new features. If you couldn't attend the live stream, here's what you missed. So, special stream today, folks. I normally don't stream at this time on Fridays, but we have a very, very special couple of guests here. We've got community manager Brandy Camel from the Diablo 3 team, aka Nevelistus.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And we've also got senior designer Adam Pull.
Hi everybody, hey, how's it going?
And so he's a little modest about it, but Adam Pull here played a huge part in the conception of challenge rifts in Diablo 3, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Challenge rifts. We're going to do some challenge rifts as well. But if you guys have questions about challenge rifts, I know I have a few, do sound off in the comments. I'll do my best to keep an eye on chat. If you do ask a question, please put @Rhykker so that it gets highlighted for me so that I could see the comment. But we're trying to keep the questions focused on challenge rifts. There will be necromancers in challenge rifts, so if you want to ask a necro thing pertaining to that. As a reminder, in the stream title, we're not discussing release date or price. And yeah, I think that covers our our intro bullet points here. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
Excited about this. Excited to really spread the word on this feature and hopefully get more people's eyes on it and playing it. Yeah.
I've been excited about challenge rifts ever since they were first announced at BlizzCon. It's a feature that I just really like. In general, I was never really into the PvP scene in Diablo 2, for instance. The whole pushing leaderboards in D3, I've never really tried because I know it's a game about how much time you put into it. That plays a huge factor, and it's like, how do you compete with the people who put in like 8 hours a day every day if you can't put in that time? But challenge rifts just boil it down to skill and strategy, and that's what I really like about it. So now I think people mostly know who Brandy is, who Nevelistus is. We've seen her in the Q&As, and she's always on the forums and Reddit, and a pretty well-known personality and well-loved personality in the community.
Oh. Shaw.
But so Adam, if I'm not mistaken, you'll be celebrating your 3rd year with Blizzard in a few weeks. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Good call. Yeah. In a few weeks. Yeah, I'll be here 3 years now on the Diablo team the whole time. Yeah, it's funny because you walk around campus or just go around the company and you just see, if people don't know, swords and shields represent the amount of time that you've spent at the company, and you just see them all over the wall. So I'm still a baby at 3 years at Blizzard. So.
Awesome. So do you want to talk a bit about your kind of role in the team? Is there anything that you particularly specialize in?
I mean, I'm systems design, but you know that covers such a broad spectrum of things. I work with Don Vu on a lot of different things. We worked on Seasonal Journey together. I'm super proud of how that turned out. Like a good way to like guide people through some of the existing content. There's so many things that exist in the game that like people might not have seen or not have experienced, and Seasonal Journey was a way to do that and guide people, especially attaching it to seasons. Like, welcome back to the game. Here's all the cool stuff you might have missed, and even challenge rifts kind of pull a little bit into that as well, of just exposing everybody to the ridiculous amount of stuff that the team has put into this game.
Awesome. You mentioned Don Vu. You guys may not realize that you know him. He has an item named after him, the Dovu Energy Trap. That's definitely named after him, right? It's not just a coincidence? Okay.
That's definitely Don.
Yeah.
So Brandy's going to be getting an item. It's currently in the beta, Dainty's Binding. Dainty is Brandy's online moniker.
Nice.
Or nomiker.
Yeah. I'm super stoked about that. Like, getting a necro item was like,
That is the class you want to get an item for.
Right? Yeah. It's kind of funny because Dainty is a name I've had for years and years and years, and it's actually the name of a character for me from D&D.
Oh.
that's a barbarian. So it's kind of oddly
right.
oddly misplaced
Only
in that regard.
Only you
but
know the slight mistake there.
Right.
So Adam, do you have an item that we don't know about, or are you hoping that one day we'll see an item named after you?
I would hope so. I'm in the same boat. I think it'd be awesome. Like even it could be a surprise to me. I don't know of any. That'd be awesome, man.
All right, cool. I know some of them are a little bit more obvious than others. But,
No, it's not like a super obscure one.
Right.
Unless somebody got clever with a name that I wasn't.
That even you're like, oh wait.
Like, oh, that's me. Oh, okay, I'll take credit for that.
So we've got a question asking about, are there going to be any significant rewards for challenge rifts? So the base reward you get, which is once per challenge rift, is a challenge rift cache, which has 8 of every act's bounty material, and then what else can we find in there? It's 300 blood shards, I believe.
Yeah, 300 blood shards, and then there's a handful of regular crafting materials in there as well.
Yep. It's somewhat similar to doing like a full bounty run, we're trying to find like a good time investment and reward equated. There aren't any items in there, but they're all materials and blood shards.
Something we maybe should have led with, actually, because I still have people actually coming into my streams and asking, what is a challenge rift? What is it that you're doing? And even saying, like, why don't you put this item on? Why don't you change this skill? I've explained challenge rifts a couple times. I want to see if you I have a pretty wordy explanation, so maybe you have a better way of explaining what a challenge rift is.
I might be just as wordy. We'll see. Challenge rifts are basically a fixed build, a fixed layout, monsters, pylons, everything that everyone gets a chance to play. You can even see like in the front end here that will show you sort of the paper doll, and you can kind of look at the build. You're not able to make any Paragon adjustments, any skill adjustments. You don't really change any of that. That's kind of the point. And I think, as you mentioned, like, if you put 1 minute in, maybe less than that, or you have to put more than that, because you need to know what greater rifts are like, and then you can play challenge rifts. That is part of the one thing that we sort of require, but your time investment in Diablo, it doesn't matter when it comes to this competition. You can put hundreds of hours in, or you can put like, you haven't played the game in months. You can jump right in, and you get to compete. And it's, so it becomes this fixed build, this fixed layout, and kind of to dive into the details of it is like you start learning more about optimizing how this build plays and optimizing the layout and figuring out how skills are executed, and it gives you a nice, I think, a razor focus on those elements of the game versus the pure damage numbers and stats element of the game. Because I think Greater Rifts do a great job of like pushing that forward, like how incredible of a build can you make in Greater Rift, how high in the tiers can you get. So I don't know if that covers it, but yeah, it goes over weekly, and we are going to be cycling through classes. One of the goals for Challenge Rifts is to get build diversity in there. So we want to have like these crazy builds that people come up with that are not really focused on the optimization, but more about like that's really a cool combination of skills or a cool use for that character, even thematically cool. I look at like funny. I load a lot of these up, and I look at pets and stuff, and I'm just like, look at all these like cool cosmetics that like, oh yeah, I want one of those, and suddenly you have a new goal, like wanting to go get a new item, cosmetic, or make a new build.
And do you want to talk a bit about how the challenge rift of the week is selected?
Yeah. So we have an algorithm, and it goes through, and it's. We were going to cycle through all the classes in a fixed order. I can roll it off the top of my head. It's Demon Hunter, Necro Barb. Let me look at it. Wizard Monk, Witch Doctor and Crusader, and we will cycle through those consistently. So if you're really interested in playing a monk, you'll know that they'll be coming up on on a certain week. Or you can even say, well, I don't play Crusaders, so I don't have to worry about this week's. So yeah, the algorithm will go through, and our main focus with the algorithm is variety. As I said, it will be picking builds with a variety of like legendaries and sets. These builds should all be what we say is like very viable. So like I've seen people that have put hundreds and hundreds of hours into the game, and we can load them up with like a Witch Doctor, and they're like, I've never played a Witch Doctor before. Like, what is going on here? And there's a whole lot to learn. So we want to make sure that learning curve is like enjoyable. So we make sure that the builds are pretty powerful, and that you can kind of learn these skills and optimize. And yeah, as I said, variety will be the key. So every week, so we'll be comparing against the previous builds that have been out, and we'll be making sure that the new ones that are coming out are different from the previous weeks. The algorithm, we've been testing it on PTR. I think we've gotten some good variety out of it, but we'll really test the waters when we get into live and as the weeks progress. Possibly making some adjustments to the algorithm if we're not getting the types of builds or the ways that people are enjoying. And there's a reward associated with this as well. So since we're picking a player's live build, there is a time that player beat the Greater Rift in, and we snapshot that time, and that is your initial like goal. So learn this build, figure out the layout. Can you beat this person's time? Can you learn to play this build as well as they do? You do have some advantages because you get to do replay, you get to memorize the layout. There are some nice inherent advantages in the feature. And then once you do that, then yeah, you get your big bounty cash reward, and that'll reset every week. But outside of that, once you've gotten that bounty cash, then you can kind of, which we've been doing a ton in the team, and I've been like itching for it, of just like as soon as a friend beats your time, or even just having like, I'm really hoping communities will come up over this, where we just have communities that are just kind of pushing each other back and forth, and just like I just always shout over the wall to Matt, one of the guys on QA that's really been focusing on this feature, like, hey, I beat your time, and then I'll go to a meeting and come back, and then he beat my time, and I'm like, all right, like I can get a few runs in. It's really addictive competition in that form, and they're nice and bite sized so that you can really get a few runs in and have that rewarding loop of improvement.
I've already been seeing that element of competition popping up, especially on Twitter. I know Rhyker's seen me like tossing some shade back and forth. Between some of the other beta streamers.
It's a friendly competition. It's pretty good, and yeah, and it's not like you have to put hundreds of hours in to possibly beat this person. It's like, right. You know what? I could go back to my desk and, maybe in 30 minutes I could one up your time.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel pretty good about like if any of you guys watch Leviathan, that man's a machine. Yeah, I don't know how he.
Number 2 on the leaderboard
he's
right
number 2
now.
on the leaderboard right. Challenge Rift, but like he's also regularly in like top 10 hardcore for the season, and like the amount that man plays is just impressive. And for me, I'm like, I can actually compete with this guy. Like I beat him on the Crusader leaderboard.
Oh, nice.
And was just like,
screenshot.
Yeah, I tossed that over to him, and I'm like, all right, bring it. Right. Come at me, bro. It was fantastic. I loved it.
So people are asking a little bit more about rewards. So the base cash is generally pretty easy to get. Like the time to beat is very attainable for the average player. People are wondering though if any chance of there being some additional reward, either for getting like top 5, top 10, or any other kind of reward structure, maybe at the end of a season, or possible? Like, is there any, is the reward structure currently set in stone, or can we possibly see something else?
I think there's always a possibility. I mean, I think this is what's going to be in the feature for going live. But I think we really want to get this in more people's hands and get some feedback loop on that. I mean, I totally see the incentive, or I still totally see like why players would want to have that. It's just like, you know, competing on that leaderboard. I even see it as just like, you want that recognition that I got to the top of that leaderboard, and we will be maintaining those leaderboards. We have the previous challenge rifts will show up, and then we are also going to be posting these.
Yeah, it will end up being on the website. I think it's going to be a little bit after launch, just because we're focused on other web stuff at the moment. But yeah, challenge rifts will eventually be on the website too, like the current leaderboards are.
So I mean, I'd say at the moment for people that are wanting those further incentives and they really want to push those leaderboards, like just keep that feedback coming and just keep us up to date, you know, even after going live, like we're constantly keeping an eye on that, and Brandy's helping us with all that. What are people really looking for out of like any fine-tuning or any of these adjustments that we can make?
We've got actually an excellent question from my mod Duke K next. He's asking if you don't have the Necromancer pack, what happens if there's a Necromancer challenge rift?
You totally get to play it.
Ah.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was actually like it was happy accident. It's best I'd say. It's like, you know, we're like, for a second we had thought about that, and we were just like, oh yeah, what is gonna happen? It's like, oh yeah, you can. Sure, play the Necro for a week, like see what kinds of builds people are making with the Necro. Like, what is, maybe you don't even know what a Necro is, and you haven't, you know, like played one in V2, or, you know, and you're really curious, like test the waters and see what Corpse Explosion's all about, and see what it's like having an army of skeletons. Yeah, it's pretty cool, like demo that's basically going to happen for the Necro every like 7 weeks.
Every
right?
7 weeks or so, yeah.
Awesome. So what are you most excited about with challenge rifts?
I mean, the competition's a big part of it, right?
Is I've been really, PTR, you know, has a limited player base, so it's been cool being able to get on the leaderboards alone. I am really curious on, yeah, when there's more players playing, how that competition is going to go, and even competing in there. But yeah, for me, it's been a lot of that. Just it's a fresh, new, like exciting thing for me to look forward to every week with Diablo. Like, it's like a way to like, oh yeah, like I should go check out what's this week's challenge with, and just seeing what comes out of that. I don't think we've had any Legacy Nightmares.
No, I don't think we've had any
like,
Lawns yet.
I'm really excited about, you know, seeing one of those pop up. So yeah, half of it is just like, well, what kind of builds are out there, and then for me, yeah, it's more about like competing with the community and going back and forth. I've been loving watching. We were watching some of the, you know, the top on the leaderboards, some of the videos of people playing. So far, and I played a lot of challenge rifts, so you'd think that I'd be kind of like mellowing out on it, but I feel that optimization, like starting playing a build I've never played before, and then after 5 or 10 runs, just like knowing this thing by heart and knowing a layout by heart, like the level layouts, like I still have a couple that we did within the team playtests that are just like burned into my brain now, because I've ran it so many times that that feedback loop of just optimizing, improving, learning has been really, really cool. So I guess I hope that I get to continue that, and discover even more stuff, that like these nuanced things that I didn't even know about that existed in the game on certain skills or items. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of things, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of things I'm excited about.
For me, challenge rifts remind me of Player Way. You guys might know that I ran a series for a while where we picked random builds from the community. They were submitted by players, and then I ended up spending a lot of time rebuilding those builds, playing through them, getting to know them. That's how I generated videos and assets for them, and it's reminiscent of that for me, only it's a lot less work on my part to do, because now it's just there for me. Right. It's like the design answer to Player Way for me, and that's fantastic. Like, what I enjoyed the most about is that it was a really great way for me to get more comfortable with the classes that maybe I spend less time with, and explore builds that I probably wouldn't put together on my own. Like, I'm really looking forward to seeing some lawn builds because I'm a casual nub. So like, I'm looking forward to getting to try out some of these things that maybe I wouldn't necessarily get the opportunity to put together otherwise. So
yeah.
Do you know if we're going to be seeing any variety in the Great Rift levels in Challenge Rifts?
I mean, anything outside of the variety that you kind of normally see in Greater Rifts?
I guess, sorry, so, we were talking earlier about talking and playing at the same time. I either mess up my gameplay or I mess up my words.
I'm also a little, I'm watching you as well.
Yeah, so I guess the question is mostly like, are we ever going to have like a 90 Greater Rift, for instance?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, I can definitely see the desire there. I can't give you kind of a little bit of the feedback of that, you know. So we've played some of those, and we've tested the variety internally, and we've noticed a lot of actually player frustration with those types of builds. There's a reason those are top tier leaderboard builds, because it takes actually a good amount of skill and focus of like, this build you have to play a very specific way, and the learning curve is like incredibly steep for some of those. So yeah, I mean, I think because we're kind of working with this algorithm, we're able to adjust it, and we can make changes over time. But I think we have to be I think we have to be good with our community too. Like, we don't want to put something out there that's frustrating and people are not enjoying. And I go back to like part of one of the things that we had learned as we were building this feature was diversity was such a really cool aspect. And seeing you know, you get into the top of the leaderboards and the build diversity, like the top tier builds are there's not much change in those, right? So I think you could put a couple of those out, or for example, if we put the feature out as top tier builds only, like, you're going to get through those cycles pretty quick, and then the builds aren't going to be the really interesting thing. It would only be about the layouts and learning and optimizing there. And yeah, just from our playtest experience and just stuff that we've seen, people have enjoyed a lot more about the variety, and the empowering builds.
Variety is really what kind of makes the feature shine, because that's what's keeping it fresh every week. That's what's keeping it, providing new experiences constantly. And I can't imagine if I sat down with my buddies and we swapped for a day with our top tier builds. Like, I would probably die in the first couple of minutes and maintain that streak of dying for a while. Whereas, I know when I'm playing with one of my closest friends, he tends to play Monk, which is my lowest playtime class. And I tend to play Crusader, which is his lowest playtime class. So if we swapped, we would just be like derping all the way around constantly.
Right. Oh, I didn't know I had any of those keys.
Right. What does this skill do? Why am I over here now?
Right. Oh.
Yeah, you only have like a week to learn the build as well, at most.
Right.
Right.
Oh, you were saying earlier something about changing the cycle. Is that just when it's going to restart, or is it still going to will it remain a week? What's the story there?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep it at a week. The idea is to give the community again enough time to like digest the build, digest the layout. You know, like the stuff that we were just going over as we're looking at this Demon Hunter build. Like this first floor, this layout is has a lot of dead ends, has a lot of bad places you can go, and just giving the community time to create some of those like 2D maps and optimal flows of like, do you skip this elite pack or do you skip this pylon? And that's actually another like cool random factor thing I'm excited to see is like what happens when we have like a layout where there is the optimal path is actually going to this elite pack that's way off that people didn't expect, or someone found the pure route that ended up being a lot better for their time. So yeah, we want to keep it a weekly though. Give people time to do a little bit of back and forth competition. Everybody has different lifestyles, so some people can only play on weekends and some people can only play like on evenings. So like I said, we noticed that at work. I would beat someone's time. I'd beat someone's time at work, and I would go say, hey, like I destroyed your time. And then a few days later, when they got a chance to actually do their runs, and then like they would beat mine and get a little bit of a back and position going on.
That's definitely one of my favorite elements.
Something that came up earlier, contrary to other single-player rifts, and you hit escape, it doesn't pause. So the reason for that is...
That's I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I feel like it must have something to do with, like, just if you're able to pause constantly, like, it's kind of cheaty. Like, you can... Instead of having to make those split-second decisions, you just pause and you analyze and you say, okay, I'm going to make sure I click right there, or I'm going to go that way. I'm guessing that might be it. I don't know. Yeah,
I would think that there might be some more technical complications to pausing it in terms of like keeping your timer and messing with that. But
might have to ask QA and Kenneth on that one. Because I think that was a technical decision. Okay. So
yeah.
We have an interesting suggestion from chat here from 8Man saying it would be cool that if you can bring back meta builds from previous patches. I'm assuming that's not going to be possible.
I don't think that would be possible because you'd have to bring back the skills as they were at that time.
However they were tuned.
Yeah. And like patching just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Like we'd have to recreate those skills and implement them into the game as they existed. Yeah. The amount of bugs that would cause, like, I'm not a designer, and I'm already like, taking my boots on behalf of QA.
Go play a previous version of the game.
Yeah. That'd be really jarring, I think. Yeah. Because like playing something like a Critical Mass Wizard now is just like mind blowing.
I think it could be it could be confusing for sure. Of like, hey, I want to go make that build, like. No, that's not possible.
Right.
It doesn't exist anymore. Right.
Yeah, we'd hate to disappoint people with like, oh, I got to play this for a week and now I'll never get to play it again.
Like the question about the Necro, like, this is a really good way for you to try out something. Like maybe there's a set that you're kind of curious about. Like we're thinking for like when seasons pop up, like, oh, hey, there's a new season and I don't know which class I want to play, but I played a few challenge rifts with this set or this other set, and now you're like, okay, well, now I do want to play Demon Hunter because I know the seasons. I've tasted what it's like to play that set.
Got an interesting idea here, maybe for the future from Recramorcen. What about having multiple challenge rifts active at the same time for various difficulties? You have the easiest one that's 1 week. The second difficulty would give you 2 weeks to do. And it kind of goes up in greater rift level where you ultimately get to like a GR90 and you have like 4 weeks to try to beat that.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, there's definitely been a variety of ideas that we've been kicking around, and we didn't have that exact idea. We did have some similar ideas of like, yeah, we could have an elite tier and a regular tier and some of those things. So yeah, I don't keep all those ideas coming in.
There's always room in the future, right? Like,
you could see where this thing could go. Part of this is we really want to get like a core gameplay loop or a core feature in without too many too much variety in terms of how it gets executed, so that players can play it and then their imaginations can go a little bit wild of like, well, what if it went this way, or what if you did this with this feature, like we were talking about earlier. It's just like rewards for the top tier of the leaderboards. Like maybe a lot of people are really wanting to push towards the top tiers of the leaderboard. So it's always just really good to hear those ideas and that feedback.
Awesome. We've got Best Prizornik saying some color of transmogs could be difficult for colorblind people. Would it be possible to force a certain color palette for the challenge rift? And I'll add to that. I sometimes found it, or maybe it's just something I need to get used to, but the orb color sometimes I feel gets lost in like the ghosts and stuff. It's kind of the same color tone as some of the monsters.
Interesting.
It's just a personal problem.
No, that's it's definitely good to hear that feedback. So but the question was on the rift level itself, or he was saying talking about transmogs specifically.
I believe, yeah, he was mentioning forcing a certain color palette for transmogs.
Okay.
So, like, maybe always forcing the non-dyed version, for example. Like, if it always defaulted to whatever the build looked like if you were removing all dyes, maybe that would be at least consistent.
Yeah, it'd be cool to, it'd be really good to, if there are any examples of, like, ones that are more problematic than others.
I mean, I imagine like, actually Julian might have a really good idea with that, because I know he works on a lot of colorblind issues a lot of the time, so he might have some insight on that.
There's also interesting feedback on the orbs. So like, so yeah, the challenge rifts, you know, we worked with creating like this consistent theme of you know, the bar having its own color, and even the sort of hub area that you can kind of come into. But you're saying that like that color can have some issues with people,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, like it might be easier to lose your character in the midst of packs if you're dyed a certain way, which, since you don't have control over it in a challenge rift, could be a problem. Wow, apparently I'm just terrible. I like, this goes back to the I'm just terrible.
So you guys are playing 2-player now,
Yeah.
which is
It has a very different.
another like fun discovery that we have with the team of when you run these in 2-player, everyone will be playing as the same build, and you really look at the whole layout a whole lot differently. I thought it was really interesting because it really encourages co-op. It really encourages communication between the 2 players rather than just like killing things efficiently. It's like, well, okay, you need to go down this path, and you know, grab the pylon or grab these packs, or I'm gonna race ahead and I'm gonna, you know, take maybe a certain amount of health off the mobs as I go, and you can clean up as behind. There are a lot of different strategies when it comes to multiplayer, and we did internally we did a 4-player one, which really definitely it takes the most like communication, right?
Yeah,
and it's
I
like,
bet.
okay, how can we do this now? Okay, you're gonna go left, you'll run ahead. Like, everyone needs to end up having this role, and we were really enjoying it because it's you didn't kind of just turn off and go, you know, kill things on your own efficiently. You're just constantly shouting back and forth. So that's another area. Again, we were kind of curious of like how much dive into the multiplayer aspect of it. The other really good benefit of this is if you are playing a challenge rift build that is too difficult, we've had some that people are like, this is a really tough build or a class that I don't play. Multiplayer can kind of be your savior, especially if you just really want that weekly reward. where you can jump into multiplayer and you can just mow over the monsters, and you will like almost guarantee to beat that runner's time,
right? Because you have such an advantage with having 2 people as opposed to 1.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if it's a particularly hard build, there was one a couple weeks back that I actually had trouble beating the basic time for. I'm trying to remember if that was I think that was the Electric Wizard build that was on there.
Yeah? Is that like a Del Sears, or was it?
No, it wasn't the Del Sears one. I think it was the one that was only up for like 2 days, and then it got replaced by a different Wizard build.
Okay,
yeah, I think that might be why. But
okay.
Yeah, but there was one I ran into that was like, wow, I actually failed this one. Is it because I'm truly awful at this game, or did I just like what did I miss about this build? What am I not understanding? It actually made me want to learn more.
Yeah.
And become more knowledgeable about that class, about the skills, about the items, like, because clearly I was missing something.
Right.
So.
And I think that we've had so many interesting conversations. Like, yeah, if you were running this multiplayer, you literally have someone right next to you who's saying, well, okay, you know what, you can ignore these keys, you don't have to worry about doing this. You know, what you really need to focus on, you know, is like this Demon Hunter build is just like making sure that you can get your pale, gives you your free vaults, and you know, like resource management for this Demon Hunter build's been pretty big, a key component to like hitting some of that trash mob, the larger trash mobs, so that you can continue building that resource up and using that. And yeah, just being able to talk back and forth with people, and even like seeing streams, like I find it so entertaining to watch this stuff streamed, because I get to learn from it, and I can capitalize on some of those lessons from stream.
Interesting suggestion from chat here, from 8man. We see this in racing games sometimes, where you can kind of race your ghost. We sort of have that in the form of the progress bar, shows like your last best run, or not your last, but your best run. Would it be possible to also like literally have your ghost follow along?
We looked into that. We were pretty curious about that too. And there's some like data storage issues and some challenges with that. I think there was a design issue too. Let me think back about that. Because when we were doing it, it's like, so if you watch the ghosts, we can't really show a representation of all the ghost mobs that they're killing as well, the monsters that they're killing.
Right.
It'd just be chaos.
Oh my god, the amount of stuff on the screen would be insane. Because like I'm looking at the rift that we're doing right now. Just imagine like twice the number of monsters and where they're going, and all the projectiles they're firing, and all these streaks of lightning.
Yeah. So there were some of those challenges. I want to say there were a few more. Like, this feature has actually been sort of cooking for a while. So like that idea came up pretty early on, because a lot of people on the team are saying the same kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's very much like the race car mentality, or yeah, outside of the technical limitations, there were some design challenges with the Ghost too.
Man, I feel pretty good about that time now that I realize it.
That's quite
That's 144.
We're getting there.
I was like, man, I'm terrible because we keep failing, and then I realized it's because we're trying to beat your insane time that you got with Leviathan.
Oh, I didn't realize it shows you that on yours as well. Also, though, that last, the first one we did, I didn't even notice you were in the game at the start. I was just kind of like goofing around, and then when I realized you're in here, I'm like, oh no, I should actually be trying.
So what was your? Did you have any tactics with Leviathan in terms of path and layout?
Yeah, leapfrogging basically. So only one of us went down to the. We basically just avoided redundancy. So like one of us right out the gate, you know, you either go top left or bottom right. One of us went one direction, one went the other, and then as the other's catching up, like if you see one guy working on a pack, just go ahead. But like if you're gonna leave. If you leave balls behind, if you know someone's behind you, they'll pick them up. Again, going for like the out of the way dudes. If you see that the guy ahead of you is going for it, then move on to the next thing.
Right.
Otherwise, that's basically it's mostly the first level. The second level is pretty straightforward. Almost literally straightforward.
Yeah, it's a very linear path. So yeah, no, I was actually just kind of innately doing that because I'm like, oh well, he's gonna go that way, so I'm gonna go this way. So yeah,
well,
man, I'd be interested to see how this one works in a 3-player. I wish we had a third computer in here that would work for that, because then we would totally jump in for that. But
yeah, like sort of figuring out those paths, because you end up having you have too much damage in one area, and you're just like, okay, we really need to spread this damage out. What's the best way to disperse that?
How can we use everything we have at our disposal as evenly as possible? Definitely seems to be the key there. So I'm super stoked about challengers. They make me so happy.
All right, well, as we're about to jump into another one here, see if we can beat our time. Yeah. Question from Big Daddy Den 76, aka Tony, aka.
Hey, Big Daddy.
Yeah,
I know you.
You guys know him.
Yeah.
He's asking, any more cube recipes coming soon, i.e., combining multiple Hellfire runs for more mats, but making raise 10 level and difficulty. Same could go for Greed's Realm. Okay, so
I don't know of anything like that at this time. Future's always open, but I don't think we have any current plans for additional condensed cube recipes.
All right, another quick one. Anything about followers picking up materials?
No, I got nothing on that front either. We kind of tried to meet in the middle with the materials with the vacuum pickup, because we do still want people to have, for materials to have that what's the word I'm looking for? That tangible feel, right?
Physical thing that
the physical thing that you're picking up. We don't want them to. We want you to recognize that, hey, you've gained this resource, but we also recognize that clicking a bajillion times in order to get your materials can be a little bit cumbersome. So that's why we introduced the vacuum pickup a couple of patches ago, because we felt like that met the middle in the best way for what the community wants and what the developers want.
Do we have any plans to have an open PTR for 2.6 without Necro, just for challenge rifts and any other changes?
I don't think so.
PTR still up.
PTR still up, but it is still closed beta.
Open? Oh,
yeah.
No.
I don't think we have plans to do an open beta. So the closed beta, it's a lot of that just has to do with how release clients are generated. Because it would require a completely different client to do.
Yeah.
And would slow down a lot of the other stuff that we're working on to try to get it out to you guys.
Getting all that stuff out sooner than putting out another BTR.
Right, yeah.
Well, let's get the real thing out there. Play it as soon as possible.
So kind of in the effort to get it in people's hands as quickly as we can, we kind of had to make the call of, do we have 2 clients or do we just try to get it out to you ASAP?
And another chat question, will there be an active library of challenge rifts?
Like a history showing like the ones that or you mean like a library that we cycle through, that we like, oh, this one's coming up? I guess maybe definition of library would be better.
I guess answer in every way you could imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Being,
I mean,
you're raising more interesting questions, so yeah, let's.
Yeah. Well, that's like, as a designer, a lot of times you take these.
You immediately start iterating.
Sometimes it comes from like a misinterpretation of a word. But anyways, I mean, how I would interpret that is like that we would have a library of existing builds to pull from and people enjoy. Which we're not doing. We want to keep this diversity up as much as possible. I will be curious at one point, do we end up seeing the cycle of like, oh, I've seen this set before, I've seen this build before. I don't
How long does that take?
I don't know the answer for that. I don't.
Well, that's not really something you can test for either.
Right. Well, because it is partially in the community's hands of like how much diversity that builds exists in the community, and I'm sure there's a finite number, obviously, but no, we don't. Yeah, we don't necessarily want to have sort of a fixed library. But historically, as you're saying, like we definitely want to have some way of posting some of the history of this stuff, just in terms of the leaderboards and whatnot. Oh, 143.
Ah!
You guys gotta plan her out. You guys.
I wasn't 100% ready for that one. I was like, oh,
okay. Ready, go.
We're starting. Okay, let's go.
We still do we shave off a second there?
We did shave off a second. I wasn't ready, and we shaved off a second.
Yeah. Sorry, I want to give you a heads up, but I also don't want to like interrupt.
Interrupt, right?
Yeah. I guess I can type it in chat. I'll do that.
Right.
Well, hopefully, yeah, people like if anybody is able to run this stuff that they're in the beta, they can see some of these layouts that you guys are going on and benefit from it. I know there's a few videos up on. There's a few streams and YouTube videos.
Yeah, some VODs out there.
Yeah,
of people's runs.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got off track. Oh yeah, the library stuff. I think we covered most of that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it could be cool. Like, I don't know. Maybe there are some other ways that we could generate builds in the future. I don't know. I threw a crazy idea out of just like, well, what if we made a build and we made it actually like
you custom tailored one?
We custom tailored one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is not going to be in the feature or anything like this. This is just designer spewing out ideas because that's how this works. But yeah, if we custom made one, and actually limited it in some ways and presented like sort of a unique challenge associated with the build, I'd love to like see if any people in the community like came up with a build like, oh, it'd be really interesting if you ran a build like
this one
that played like this one.
Mm-hmm.
And even kind of spec'd it out for us, and then we could try and do a few runs, and then maybe we can like that up. I don't know. But at the moment, the idea is the algorithm is going to handle the heavy lifting of finding those builds and keeping the variety fresh.
And to answer a question from Schuster McGee, there is a human being at the end that has final say to like veto a build, because he's asking if what if the build isn't viable, basically. But
yeah,
it's someone that approves it at the end of the day. So I don't
yeah,
think
we've been putting some in some fail safes. Fail safes.
Yeah.
Of if there is a build that's just really not viable, or it's just terrible, or it's just causing some weird issues going on that people are not enjoying, that we will cycle that out. Yeah.
And Rekra asking, I guess maybe a feature request, if personal challenges will be possible, sort of like you get the option to save your Greater Rift run and then like let your friends play through as like a small scale challenge rift. I imagine that would probably be like require too much server space or something like that.
Well, there's a lot of what's interesting, I'm curious though, you only get to run that once. So like similar, like we give you inherent advantages to this because you get to run it over and over and over.
Right.
So as soon as you save that, your friends are going to have inherent advantages over you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd like to think about that further. Like, would there be a different way to do that? But
it'd be kind of cool if you could save, if you were able to save just that one, if you could then rerun it over and over again, beat your own time, and then you're competing just with your friends.
Can make the optimized version of your run and then put it out there. But I think
cool.
Like you're saying, like data storage for every single player out there, and all,
that's
some technical limitations. But I also think I think it's great that we can have so many different people focus on this one build or this one layout, and not segment the community off into like, oh, they have this other build that they're playing over here, and as a 2 cents, if you are ever really interested in playing different builds, I think we are going to be posting different ones in different regions. So,
oh, okay, that's cool.
One of those.
If you want to hop onto the EU servers and try out what they have.
Yeah,
I actually didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm pretty sure that's still happening.
It is okay.
if it doesn't, there was a technical limitation to that, but I'm pretty sure that we're still doing it. Yep.
Okay, because I mean that's kind of cool from the perspective of that community gets to play something from their community.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like,
and these are the types of builds that people are playing over here. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because we definitely see differences. Like And we actually see that on the Greater Rift leaderboards where suddenly a build that was super popular over in China makes its way over to NA, and you see the meta shift a little bit because every community approaches all of these problems differently. So
I'll never forget season 4 when the duo generator monk emerged. We thought that the meta was solved, then halfway in the season, whoops, I misclicked there. But,
it's like, nope, just kidding.
We have a question about from Deadset, aka Rashkovsky.
Hey, Deadset.
Yeah. Was there mention of the minor but impactful RNG aspect of the progress globes dropping near or further from the character, impacting clear time?
Yeah, I think we have made some adjustments to those. They still,
they're still somewhat
There's
random.
still a little bit in there. I think that's currently in PTR, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
I
think it made it in. I will have to double check because that might have been one of those changes that didn't make it into the patch notes for whatever reason.
Right.
Usually just because we missed an email or something, but
there are some variants for sure. A few things like in terms of like how the AI decide to move or where you happen to be standing. Like we've noticed that with some of there's like the one that always sticks with me is the which is actually kind of similar to this build where people are optimizing down to the sub 2 minutes at this point. We had a witch doctor. There was
that one's
the
crazy.
chicken run build.
Yeah, the chicken run build.
The hex build where you basically run around as a chicken and just blow stuff up constantly. And we noticed there are even tactics into like luring elites together or grouping them together and just getting them to path towards you, to walk towards you. And the orbs kind of can end up being somewhat of a similar thing. Sometimes you can get the orbs, like kill the monster in the right area, and then the orbs have nowhere else to go, so they cluster. That can feel really good. So yeah, there's still a little bit of a random factor in there, but we kind of look at hope that is like a really cool, like as you're doing your run, like this is it, this is the run, and you have that really intense spike there. But again, keep the feedback coming in with that stuff. Like, we'll be really curious to see how big of a difference they make to players as they're running through here.
I don't know what happened that run. We lost like 10 seconds.
What was your time?
153. I think maybe I missed some trash that I normally grab.
I saw some orbs. Somebody wasn't picking them up.
Oh, okay. Are you throwing me just under that bus?
I'm pretty sure it was on me. I accidentally clicked on the rift while I was talking. I didn't even mean to start the rift, so I wasn't really in it for.
For a few seconds.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Great question from Stronkenator here. What about 2 to 4 player challenge rifts with different classes?
I think it's cool. Like, I guess I would assume that would be like take the snapshot of
a party
of a party that actually ran. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of work that would have to be done into who picks what build and fighting over that, or do you have to?
That's a whole new interface that needs to happen too.
There's a whole UI that to come along with that. We definitely had some conversations about that, the playing all of the same build and not having to like build a much more complex interface for that. Plus the kind of learning curve. Like we said, it's been nice. Like I said, the interesting, like, fun side effect of people running all with the same build and competing together. It's like learning the layout together, learning the build together. Like, we really liked sort of the camaraderie and the co-op aspects that kind of came out of that. So, I still think it's a cool idea, but it's just not in this right now.
Sorry, I'm just kind of reading through chat.
Yeah.
If there's anything else that comes up. So yeah, as I said, that like Challenger's been around for a while. We've been really excited about this feature. Like, we've been playing it internally for a pretty long period of time. And they initially started out as somebody had asked earlier about a library of builds. They initially started out as a fixed set of builds. And and they would be like this kind of predetermined, and that was cool. But I think what we realized pretty quickly is just like that loses interest after a certain period of time, because the layout changing like is cool, but once you know how to play this build, and like there's so much other stuff out there, like why are we not taking advantage of it as well? So Kenneth Williams, one of our programmers, had came up with the idea of like getting this algorithm going and actually polling from our live community. And he's a programmer, but I consider like everybody on the team as a designer in some form, and like and he was definitely a designer on this feature, and bringing a lot of that stuff together and making this stuff live. So yeah, he working on this algorithm that can kind of go through and find builds and make sure that it embraces that diversity. And then it was just like, for us, it was like opening a present, you know? It's like every week you get to open this up and you're like, oh, oh, look at this thing. That's cool. Like, how does that work? You know, like playing around with a new powerful toy. And I think we realized we had something that had a much longer legs than even the original.
Is there anything people can do to like increase their odds of their run getting picked?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like running Greater Rifts a lot.
Running Greater Rifts a lot, which I think pretty much everybody does anyway.
Yeah.
Honestly, oddities.
Yeah,
might get picked more frequently.
True. Like, yeah, I guess
experimenting around.
Like I'm like trying to backwards engineer it in my head right now. Like how would I do that? But like I know the community will probably figure out some interesting ways to approach it. But you could definitely look at what's the last week's build. Okay, don't play anything like that.
Yeah.
Because we are looking for diversity, but
experiment. Yeah, like that would really be my recommendation. Is experiment around.
Kind of cool. I don't know. That again, this is why I'm interested in seeing this get into the players' hands, because like, what if players start putting these really wacky builds together and running them a whole lot just so that we could put it up it could get into a challenge rift, and then it's just like, wow, this thing's weird.
Thing's weird, but it's really fun.
But that's kind of fun. We talked a lot about like they're puzzles, you know, and that's why I think they tend to feel pretty good. They're these mini puzzles that you solve of how does this build work? What should I use? What should I not use? How does this layout work? What can I do to memorize where I should go, where I shouldn't go? And what in that satisfying feedback loop of improving on that puzzle, not only for your base reward, but seeing your name move up on that leaderboard.
On that leaderboard, yeah. Especially on the friend leaderboard.
Yeah, kicking your friends out of the way and be like, all right, well, I'm on the top. I'm good right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go tag everybody on Twitter and start a war.
Yeah, those bragging rights are a pretty good reward.
Yeah. And then if you're on the development team, I hear Tiffany's got some brownies that she hands out to.
We're fighting pretty hard. There's some pretty hardcore people. So it was a tough competition.
Sure, why not? I was like, oh god, okay.
I misclicked. I just keep dancing.
Oh yeah.
around it.
Well, I mean, we can go over some of that stuff. Actually, that is part of the features. Like, you can town portal and
it'll immediately stop the run.
Yeah, we don't allow the interruption, so you know we take the legendary power.
The homing pads.
Yeah, the homing pads, so that
everyone has homing pads by default.
Free. Because so we did a lot of internal playtesting, and that was definitely some of the feedback, especially these faster runs. Just
right.
Like, I messed up on that.
If you like, I just got stuck in a corner for 3 seconds.
Yep, and like exactly.
Or
like the wallers.
Yeah, the waller completely screwed me there.
You know, like some of those legendary or some of those monster affixes are really interesting because it can really affect your play style and the results of your run. Like, oh my god, that waller trapped me in a corner and that was terrible.
I was talking about this earlier. I've totally not had shadow power up this entire time. Like, I'm such a noob. This is not going to be a great run.
And yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, you can move your skills around along the bar. You can assign them to different different keys.
Yeah, you can't change what the skills are, but you can customize them based on your preference.
We don't even for this build very specifically. Like I think it can be a lot more comfortable. For different people,
depending on what keys how you tend to play.
Yeah, I tend to like my mobility stuff on on the number of keys or kudo ER. So.
Right.
A technical question about the timer that we see when it's kind of relative to your last run. Is it just kind of averaged out, or does it accurately represent where you were at that given time, like how far you were into the rift?
Well, it's updating constantly. Yeah, you will see it like when it's in the green, it'll be constantly like counting down or counting up. We went back and forth on a couple variations of that. In terms of like lap times and some of those kinds of concepts, but what we settled on is just this one that is constantly updating. So you will see it if you're really paying attention to those numbers. You will see it spike up and down in terms of how far ahead or how far behind you are, just because a lot of the rift orbs that drop can make it very chunky. But yeah, we ended up just liking that a lot better, of just having that feedback, and yeah, just seeing the ahead or behind, kind of keeping you motivated. We went back and forth on that in the team, and it'd definitely be good to hear feedback from the players of like, does it bother people at all seeing that, or are there details that aren't in there? As you had mentioned, just so everybody knows, the time that you're going to be competing with will it'll initially be the runner's time, and after that it'll update to your best time. So it really becomes a nice indicator for those smaller improvements as you're going along. And when you're done with the run, it's funny, like we put this in, or we're hoping to put it in, and I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not, but some of the guys got it finished. Is if you improved on your time at the very end of the run, you'll see kind of like this big effect play on your character.
Yeah, it's like the level up. It's similar to the
very
Paragon
similar to the level up effect, but like themed towards challenge rifts. But you kind of like, I've been noticing, I sit there like when I finish a run and I'm not 100% sure if I beat my time that much, and I'm waiting for the effect,
anticipation,
and then it explodes. And you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then you get the pop-up screen for completion, and you get to see the details for all the how much did you improve.
Question from chat: are you considering any kind of expansion to challenge rifts where you can play with your own build, but it's the same rift as everyone else, and maybe like no Paragon or maybe certain other restrictions?
Like, yeah, okay, like a fixed rift, and everybody just has to. It could be tough because of the varying amount of power that's out there. I mean, in some form, greater rifts do this. Yeah, they're not fixed, but I don't know. I have to give it more thought. I definitely have thought of like, the team has thought about the possibility space that if this is working well and I don't know, we get resources or whatever happens, like whatever we do moving forward, that this feature could turn into a lot of different things, like play as a different character, or like you said, like a custom made build, or a rift layout that's super unique. Like I think there's a lot of cool ideas out there. I don't know. None of them are like settling in, or there's nothing that we're moving forward with. We're really just 100% focused on like getting this thing bug free and ready for everybody to play. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Like having everybody play their own builds on a fixed layout. I would like to figure out the difficulty side of it though, to make it engaging. Like if it was a endless dungeon or something like that, and it got harder in each tier or something like that. So that, I got the level 12, how far did you get? But it was a fixed
Fixed difficulty, fixed spawn.
Well, no,
or...
not fixed difficulty.
Oh,
If the entire thing was fixed, but every tier got harder.
Oh, gotcha.
But I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. I know for a fact
we don't have the tech for that.
Yeah.
But always cool to brainstorm or see what again the ideas the community comes up with.
Yeah. Another question: when a challenge rift is picked, is there any way to see whose challenge rift, like whose greater rift that was?
So that was actually something you guys reached out to community about when you were developing this, because we had to ask the question, and this is kind of the thing we have to ask anytime there's like data being exposed: is this going to result in people being harassed? Like, that was our first and foremost concern, is, you know, did this person happen to leave a gem that's not optimal in, and now you have all these people messaging them, telling them about what a terrible person they are because they spaced out on swapping this one piece of gear? We really didn't want that situation to come up. And as much as I really like the idea of rewarding people, and the devs like rewarding the people with the recognition that, yeah, this is my build, I think the person whose build it is going to recognize, like, oh, that's my transmog, or oh, like, this is my stuff. So you'll get that personal recognition of knowing, hey, this is my build, but then it's on you as to like how exposed do you want that information to be is your decision to make, not ours. So I think that works out better for everybody in the long run.
Yeah, we don't want to force someone into that situation.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, that's, I trust that by whole and large that wouldn't happen, but there's always that one extraneous case that ruins the fun for everybody, right? So we have to always take these worst case scenarios in mind to make sure that we're protecting our players and making sure that the community stays a warm, comforting place that, you know, people engage with, and the focus is on teamwork, not on trashing each other's builds.
Another quick question: these test dummies that we have,
can
we get them?
Where they just drop out of the sky, right? Yeah.
Like, could we have that like in our regular towns to test our?
I don't know. I think that there is a level of this is basically the same reason we don't have DPS meters, right? Like the game is very much about you playing your build in your optimized way, and we don't necessarily want it to inherently drive down to being a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Now, it can become that way to a lot of players, and plenty of players do that on their own, but I think there's a door there where we don't want the expectation to be this is how you play the game. So it's one of those things that really does kind of encourage that behavior. Now, that's the last conversation I remember there being, but that was probably a couple of years ago, so that might be out of date. But that's at least the philosophy I remember.
Yeah, I mean, on the challenger side, you know, the main reason we're putting them in is just there's certain skills you're just not going to be able to see, or even like
reading them might not give you the comprehension.
Things that you can't even proc, and you know, like, and asking somebody to jump into a thing and this timer's running and they're like, whoa, like
what do I do?
Not necessarily the environment that they would be comfortable in the first time they press a key to figure out what the heck the key does. So yeah, we want to just make sure that you can at least see what happens versus focusing too much on the stats or the damage numbers and all that.
All right, I think we'll take 2 more questions and then we'll probably head out for the day. I gotta get Adam back to his desk so he can continue getting this patch out to you guys.
Or maybe beating some.
All right, so one of the questions from Captain J, are these like baby steps toward regular Overwatch style events? Like, basically, could we possibly see in the future more event type things coming to Diablo?
I mean, I wouldn't say that they are. They are in that same vein for sure, and I think that's
kind of like brawls.
Yeah, that's been like the cool part about it, is this like fun, bite-sized sort of gameplay that you can jump into, and then you can get back to your sort of like your bigger commitments or your bigger things that you're into, but like something that keeps you wanting to come back and wanting to see what's new and what's going on. So yeah, it's I think that's been cool in terms of like a lot of Blizzard games, like exploring that space. You know, especially with Overwatch, I love doing that. Of like, oh, what are they? All right, I'll check out this, you know, arcade, this mode that they came up with. You know, do a few matches with it, and then like, okay, that was fun. I'm gonna go back to, you know, my normal play.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I play Mystery Heroes a lot because otherwise I play like the same 3 characters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's just a really good way for me to increase my game knowledge and be more competent when I actually go and do my like season games.
I think that's the philosophy behind a lot of those, especially even like challenge risks, right? It is this sort of a safe place to explore and learn and improve, and then take that knowledge and bring it back to the main game, or bring it back to whatever you're doing and gain from that, whether it be playing a new class or going after a new set, or even just having a better understanding of how your skills really play out and the best way to execute them. So.
All right, our last question then, Zugzuggins asking, the rewards for Challenge Rift seem to be a bit weak right now. What is going to be done, if anything, to stop players, and I guess maybe they're referring to more competitive players, from just doing it once a week and then ignoring the feature?
At least from my perspective, and you can correct me or if you have a different thinking, but I think it's totally okay if some people just want to hop in once a week to grab the rewards and move on, because maybe the appeal of challenge rifts just doesn't fit their personality, or it's not their cup of tea, and that's okay. I think challenge rifts are really aimed at probably less hardcore players, unless you're like really competitive and like your drive is I want to climb those leaderboards, then challenge rifts are totally for you, because it's a form of competition that's very different than anything else that's available in Diablo 3 right now. So but if some people are just like, you know, I play Diablo because I like killing monsters and gaining loot, and I don't really get that from challenge rifts, so I'm gonna go get my bounty bag and be done. I think that's fine. I think it's okay if there's people like that.
Yeah, and to flip that on its head, like, we didn't want players to have that feeling. Well, now I have to do this thing.
These,
Now this is the way I have to play the game, and we're not trying to force anybody to play the game a certain way. You know, we definitely want to let players, like, if they're into the challenge and they're into competition, like that is the motivation to play this more than once and to dive in this more. And the reward is, you know, like, is there is something there. There is a little bit of a benefit, a little of okay, I'll check this out.
Right.
But we don't want to turn it into something that feels like a job, or it's like, I have to check in every week and do this thing that, you know, I'm not enjoying this. You know, like, again, the original goals are players get to learn. And players get to learn more about the game. There's so many classes, so many items. There's this game that, like, I don't think there is, like, I don't feel like there's. I think players tend to focus on their build or their character, and they don't focus on all soon-to-be 7 classes that exist in the game.
Right.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us. That was Brandy Camel. Well, she's still here. Brandy Camel, Community Manager, Nevelistus, and Senior Designer, Adam Pull. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your time. I think people would love if you would do more of these things. People were asking a lot of questions not related to challenge rifts, but so if you ever want to, you know, have some of these that aren't, you know, focus on different topics or whatever. But again, thanks so much. I don't want to take up any more of your time. But yeah, great stuff.
Hey.
Thanks so much. It was really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Rhykker.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you, Adam, and Brandy. Always a pleasure. And all of you joining us, thanks for watching. Thanks for the questions, and we'll see you guys next time.